What is happening with Project Horizon at Alton Towers? It's been over 3.5 years since we first heard about plans for this huge building with a ride inside at the park. And yeah, I was starting to give up hope. I thought nothing started on this project. It's clearly fully cancelled. But no, something has happened these past few weeks on the Project Horizon site, which I find quite interesting. And that is what I wanted to talk about in this video. But before we get to that stage, I just wanted to have a recap over this whole project because it's been 3.5 years since we first heard of this. There's been ups and downs. It really has been a roller coaster for Project Horizon. So I'm hoping that, yeah, we're finally going to have something starting to happen. It certainly looks like it could be based on what we've seen recently. Let's go way back to the start. It was the 4th of September 2022. I can't believe it how long ago it was. And that's when Alton Towers invited local residents to a project consultation to be held in the conference centre at Alton Towers for plans for a major new investment, a new indoor ride. That's all they said, an indoor ride located on the former site of the Alton Mouse, known by many, especially long-term Alton Towers enthusiasts, as Coaster Corner. This is just off to the back of the park, right by the flag tower, and also behind the world of David Walliams. Now that site has not been open to guests of Alton Towers since 1992. And that's when the Alton Mouse closed. But the reason why it got that nickname of Coaster Corner is because it wasn't just Alton Mouse that was on that site over the years. There was also 2 other coasters that were in that location. So throughout the 80s and 90s, it kind of got that reputation of, oh, it's Coaster Corner. But then it got fully closed off, mainly because of a lot of sound issues. It's right on the barrier of the boundary of Alton Towers, Alton Village not too far away. So it was kind of never used for anything again other than back of house storage. So yeah, you know, we were all quite surprised that, oh, Alton Towers have got plans for something there, but of course it would be fully enclosed. A big show building is what we then started to get more details about. It was the 19th of September 2022 when the consultation itself was actually held. I didn't go to it because, of course, as much as we're local, we're not that local to go to this, but I did know some people that went to it that live in the village. And yeah, really interesting the fact that we finally got to have a first kind of look at what the Alton Towers plans were for this site, something that hadn't been used since 1992. And yeah, there was certainly a lot of excitement thinking, oh, they're going to finally be using this area of the park again for a major development. It was then the 27th of September 2022 when we got our first detailed look, the exact location for this and also the size of the building. Before that, Alton Towers just kind of said they wanted to put something, you know, where Coaster Corner is, where the Alton Mouse was before. We didn't have the exact outline, you know, these sort of plans for where it was going to go. 27th of September 22, all of that changed and we got to see the size of this building, 71 metres by 46 metres with a height of up to 19.4 metres from ground level, but also in the plans it was mentioned that they plan to dig down 4 metres as well. So this could have brought it up to maybe 23 metres tall, you know, talking from below ground level to the height of the building itself. An absolutely massive show building, by far the largest show building of its kind at Alton Towers. And it really would have been this huge project to really get so excited about. I remember doing the videos on this back in 22 into 23, being so excited about this, thinking, this is brilliant. Like, you know, we've got Alton Manor coming in 2023, Nemesis being redone for 2024, Toxicator 2025. You know, everything was planning really well, wasn't it? And it looked like this was going to open 25, 26. We should have been riding this thing now if all had gone to plan. And I'll come more onto that later on. But yeah, like the size of this building, so exciting. Not just the main show building, but also plans for a smaller building at the front of it as well that I presume would house the station for this possible coaster. This is where I wanted to mention, at not one point did Alton Towers ever say this is a roller coaster. But from our sources on the inside and just a lot of speculation on this building, it was very clear that this was going to be a roller coaster. You know, we weren't looking at a flying theatre or a dark ride or anything like that. This was plans for a roller coaster. I'm led to believe this was plans for Secret Weapon 9. This was going to be the next big Alton Towers project. And then, yeah, November the 2nd, 2022, we got the full detailed application. So 27th of September when we got, the full details, that full application with everything was November the 2nd that year. And that got to show us not just the building, but all the queue line, the entrance portal, and the fact that this was not just going to be an extension of the park, but as a brand new area, like a pathway kind of between what was the Alton Towers dungeon at the time, obviously that's all closed now, and the world of David Walliams. On that pathway there, that's where we were looking at seeing this brand new entrance portal. There was plans for an entrance structure, and then a pathway that would lead down through the forest, through the trees, down to Project Horizon. And yeah, like we could see the main building itself had a large curved structure on the front that would have also been part of the theme for this ride as well. And we also got details on the cost for this, which would have been a £12.5 million investment. So not the most pricey ride at Alton Towers they've ever built, but certainly a significant investment. And for the fact that this would be an indoor coaster, you know, it would have been a considerable amount to spend on a building and an indoor roller coaster. We also got details on the construction timeline for this project, 78 weeks from start to finish, with more of a timeline of just under 2 years. So we all thought this is probably looking likely to be the 2025 edition, if not maybe 2026, as in this year we should have been riding it. But yeah, obviously that certainly hasn't been the case. So yeah, the application was fully submitted the 30th of December, so just before the end of 2022. Concerns were raised about the attraction from a few different parties, some from the council, including the flood risk. They didn't object to it, but it was certainly a flood risk issue that they saw and wanted more details about. There was local resident complaints, like there is with quite a lot of Alton Towers projects that we've seen in the past, because of the location of Alton Towers. It's a beautiful place, it really is, but that can also be its downfall as well because of the heritage and the location. They can't build above the tree line, everything's got to be hidden. It has caused them some issues in the past, but also it's meant that they've been more creative, and we've had rides like Nemesis dug down, Oblivion digging the big hole, and even 13 with elements underground. You know, I love the fact that that restriction is in place at Alton Towers, because I don't think we'd have got some of the really unique rides that we have done over the years if they could just build as tall as they wanted to, really. So yeah, I do think that has actually helped Alton Towers be really unique, but also for them, then yeah, it makes everything a little bit more difficult. There was complaints about the intrusion to Alton Village because this is on the edge of the site. As I mentioned previously, when it was coaster corner and had outdoor coasters in that site, I know from chatting with family that used to live in the village that out the front in Alton, you could definitely hear screams a lot more because it was right on the side where the flag tower is. You could hear that. Obviously, this is plans for an indoor building. Other than the construction of it, there'd be no disruption at all. In fact, it was later found out that you wouldn't even see the building from most areas in Alton. There's a couple of high elevation points. I think Alton Castle was mentioned as one of them, which is in the village. But yeah, it was going to be very hidden and very well disguised because of the advanced tree line that there is around the site there as well. Heritage England, they also got involved and had concerns about how close it was to the flag tower. So yeah, things weren't looking good at this point. I remember doing a video at the time and thinking, oh, it's not looking good for this. Quite a few different parties are saying that, the building's too big, it's in the wrong location. And we all thought, yeah, this could be the end of this project, or at least on that site. There is other areas at Alton Towers that could be developed, but could any of them fit this building on? Well, that's the thing. But then the 16th of February 2023 came around and plans were approved. Now, the week before, we'd heard rumblings that the plans were going forward. A few little changes were needed to the colour of the building and that sort of thing. But no, it was right. Plans were approved in February 2023. And we thought, here we go. This is it. Construction is going to be starting in the spring, probably for a 2025 opening, if not 2026. This brand new project at Alton Towers. Last new roller coaster to open was 2018, Wicker Man. Of course, we knew at the time that Nemesis was having its full transformation and would be closed throughout 2023, ready for reopening in 2024 as Nemesis Reborn after a full retrack. And we thought, that's it. This is going to be the next big project. As much as it was never confirmed to be a roller coaster, the size of this building and also some of the things that were mentioned in the documents more lent towards it being a coaster. Like, for example, on the show building, there was a little, I say little, it's a big building. There was a door, like a roller open door for like taking trains in and out of the building, things like that you would have for a coaster building, and not things like, I don't know, a flying theatre or a trackless dart ride. It had that kind of access into the building. So we knew that this was going to be a coaster. We knew this was going to be the next big project. But yeah, spring came around and we all thought, here we go, let's start watching this site very closely, both from in the air and on the ground. And nothing really happened. But also a few trees had been removed that winter. I think there was some damaged trees mentioned in the application. They were removed, but basically at the back there, it's storage. There was a bit of a ride graveyard, some old rides at Alton Towers. Submission was still back there actually, just in storage when it came to the end of its life and was removed a long time ago out of the park. But yeah, they did start to clear a little bit of those, but also back at that back of house area where this is going to be built, there's all sorts. The skips, the shipping containers, there's still bits of old theming and rides. Yeah, it is an absolute mess back there. Obviously, I used to work at the park for 8 years and regularly would go to that back area just when we were doing little jobs and stuff over winter especially. And yeah, it's just full of absolute rubbish back there, and it still is to this day. So yeah, clearly we thought, well, before any construction starts, they've got to do a lot of clearing, they've got to move a lot of stuff away. So it got to summer, you know, summer 23, I thought, yeah, okay, we're going to see something soon. Then it got to winter 23. Then into 24, Nemesis opened. We thought, okay, Nemesis open now. Maybe this is going to start. Nothing. Silence all throughout 2024. Then we got into 2025 and thought, wow, yeah, this should have been almost finished now. We should have been looking at a building and they're working hard on the inside of this. Absolutely nothing happened all throughout 2025. No site clearance, no groundwork, no nothing. And here's me thinking, this has been cancelled. Now, especially last year when we know that Merlin had quite a big restructure, there was a lot of financial pressures on Merlin, and there still is at the moment. There's some huge debts that Merlin have got. You look at their financial figures and it's not pleasant viewing. So clearly this was, well, should we say cancelled? Postponed would be the right word, I think, for this one. Postponed at this point. Yeah, there was no plans for it to go ahead. We'd heard from our internal sources that, you know, it was done. It's not happening anytime soon. But obviously in the UK, with planning applications, I'm not too sure what it's like in other countries, but in the UK, you normally have 3 years to start on a project, else the plan application is going to expire. You know, you're going to lose that and potentially never get it again. And especially with this project, it was tough for them. You know, they had the Alton Village going at them, English heritage concerns, the council had concerns as well about the a floodplain. So yeah, there was all sorts of different issues that had gone into this. We were lucky to get this approved. And then when Alton Towers didn't start work on it, I know myself and many others were like, oh, it's so sad because they've got permission to build this. They've actually managed to get it, and nothing has started. So pretty unfortunate timing really for Merlin to think that, oh, you know what, it's not worth going ahead with that project. I'm still really surprised the decision was made. I mean, a £12.5 million investment is a huge amount of money, but also it's the UK's biggest theme park. They've got to be doing things to innovate and stay ahead of the competition, especially with Universal coming in 2031, competition stepping up at other parks in the UK as well. This was going to be their moment. This was going to be this big spectacular ride and an indoor coaster, which is what it was rumoured to be, heavily rumoured to be. Then it would have been absolutely spectacular for the park, wouldn't it? So yeah, they had 3 years to get work underway, and I was thinking that deadline's coming round. Worked out the deadline would be the 21st of June 2026. So at the time of filming this now, only a couple of weeks ago, was the deadline. So we thought, what's going to happen here? Surely they're not just going to let this application expire after 3 years. And then 31st of March this year, a couple of months ago, planning applications allow groundworks to proceed. Now, this was an interesting one. So Alton Towers basically said that they wanted to start on some groundwork for this project. Now, there were still some issues and things that needed resolving. The application was approved, but before any major work could start, mainly due to, you know, trees, relocation of wildlife, all that kind of stuff, you know, what comes into it. Not the most exciting things, but things that have to be done for a project. And we're seeing similar things to that happen down at Universal in Bedford right now. You know, all these things are happening. It might look a bit boring and stuff on the when you look at it, but it's all important, you know, parts of it. So 31st of March comes round, then plan application documents allow for groundworks to begin. And this is where I started thinking, here we go. So it's the same rule if you're building, you know, a house or something like that or anything, but this is a massive show building. Alton Towers needed to start something before the 21st of June. And they did. And that's what I'm coming on to in this video. So as of a couple of days ago, the site has had some activity. Now, this was done a few weeks ago, and it seems like that activity has now stopped, which was clearly let's do something to stop the application running out. Because yeah, I did capture some aerial footage showing this. Here we go. So you can see here a trench. Now that trench, probably only a few meters long, looks like it's on a corner there as well, doesn't it? It comes down this way and then also across as well. This, I believe, lines up perfectly with, like, if you were looking at the building head on for Project Horizon, this looks like it's the back right corner of the show building. Now, I could be completely off with this. It could be not related at all. It could be them just doing some pipe work or other infrastructure. There's a lot of other back of house buildings and all sorts round there. But still, the fact that in March they said that, you know, they wanted to start groundwork, and then now they've done this before that date, I think this was clearly done to say they have started on this project. Started. That doesn't mean it's going to continue. But clearly, the fact that they've done this now shows that they've still got an interest in developing that site and hopefully doing Project Horizon. Now, whether that means that what's inside that building will be the same as what was originally planned, who knows? There's been creatives that have left, there's been management changes. The building itself could effectively now be home to anything. You know, if they do go ahead with that building, in the plans it was never really stated what was going to be inside there. So effectively, Alton Towers and Merlin Magic Making, they could change what's inside that building. They may go ahead with the original plans for some form of indoor coaster, or they may completely change the use of the building, or they may even apply for permission to reduce the building and it turns into something else. But still, or it might just carry on like this, nothing. But work has started. It's very small, and as you can see, they've also put some boarding up round, painted blue, some blue boarding. So that shows that, you know, things aren't really going to progress anymore at the moment. There's still rubble all around. There's loads of storage around there. The environmental services centre, that's all at the back there as well. Waste disposal, none of that has moved, none of that has been touched. So I think this is purely to stop the application from expiring. They have broke ground on Project Horizon. There you go. Does it mean it's going to be happening anytime soon? Probably not. But they're hanging on to it, and that gives me hope for the future with this project. The small trench has been dug. What looks like it's that corner to me, it's a perfect, like, right angle, isn't it, there? And you line it up with the flag tower, you line it up with the plans, that does look like that top corner. So there we go. Something has been done. They've started work. Whether that means we're going to see actual work start, as in not just because the application's expiring or not, who knows? But I'll be keeping a close eye on it. I'll keep you updated here on the channel as always. But yeah, there was rumours a few weeks ago. Someone was saying, oh, you know, major work started back there. They've heard noises and all sorts. Yeah, it was nothing to get too excited about. But still, this shows that they are hanging on to that plan application. They know that they've done really well to get this, you know, above board and passed. They don't want to waste that, well, that opportunity really here. So let's see what happens. I'll keep my eyes peeled, and if we see anything from up in the air or on the ground, I will let you know as always. But let me know your thoughts, Project Horizon, down below in the video comments. Is it dead in the water or is it coming back? Who knows? But clearly something is happening, and also it's been a while, like, since we've had something really exciting to follow at Alton Towers. This is what we really do want, so fingers crossed we see this go ahead. I would love nothing more than to see this really come to fruition, for something for us all to follow and be really excited about. Thanks for joining me here on Theme Park Worldwide. Check out yesterday's vlog, full part vlog from Alton Towers, if you haven't already seen it. And that leaves me with one final thing to say. Get out there and keep on riding. Bye everyone.